Welcome on this very, very hot day in July 2019. Today I have with me Ladey Adey, publisher. So,
Hi.
welcome.
Thank you.
How are you dealing with the heat? You look cooler than I do.
I enjoy it, so I just go with it.
Do you? I hide if I can. I have to just come back from a meeting, so I'm a bit hot and bothered. But anyway, so just wanted to ask a few questions, actually. How long have you worked in publishing?
Well, I started in publishing back in 1990, or in the 1990s. I was a designer and a layout artist for a technical publication department. It was for an inkjet printing company, so in itself it wasn't that interesting, but it gave me everything I needed to know about using white space and setting out publications. And I was their in-house magazine editor. And then in my spare time, I was co-editor for the Northern Newfoundland Dog Club.
Oh, wow. Do you like dogs then?
Yes, we had Newfoundland dogs. So we were writing articles on different subjects and anything I was interested in, whether that be mosaics or pet bereavement or lessons in business from golfing, I would do some writing. So now I have a regular blogs and 2 podcasts.
2 podcasts,
so,
wow.
Yes, so that was sort of my in. But then I went away and went into senior management. I wrote my first book, and it was not until years later you suddenly realise how much you actually know about something.
Yes. Yeah.
So when I started to publish my books, I already knew how to do the layout and how I wanted things to look.
Yes.
So it just became this huge circle. So
what was your book about?
Pardon?
You said you'd published a book yourself. What was the book called?
The book is called Unfrozen.
Oh.
So it's how to deal with disappointment, disillusionment, and discouragement.
Oh.
So that was my very first book. Since then, I've written a children's book with my daughter, and a colouring book, and a few other things.
Excellent.
So I got the teacher on how to write a book, and today it's just so easy with Amazon. And getting it out there, you don't have to have the rejection slips from publishers because you can just do it.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought it was easy, but then I realised that other people don't find it quite so easy. And that's when it became, well, why didn't I help them? Why didn't I start publishing other people's books as well as my own? So with my daughter, we set up Pink Parties Press so that we co-author books and we publish for other people.
Excellent.
And we are known as independent authors and independent publishers. So we're part of ALLI, ALLI, the Alliance of Independent Authors. We know what works. We've got the T-shirt, as they say. And so we work with authors, making them have the best deal they can, because being authors ourselves, we know what it's like.
Yes, yes.
We want them to have 100% the royalties and have the coaching so that they know how to do the process. So they might get the first book with us, but after that they could do it themselves.
Right. So it's more about sort of giving people a launch pad, really.
It is, very much.
Excellent.
Very much. Because, my pet hate is the fact, I say to people about a book and they say, oh, I've got a book, I've written it. And I go, okay.
Like I did to you.
And then you realise they're only part of the way there, or they haven't got an ISBN, but they've had it printed.
Oh,
and that's
yes.
really cross, because they've not been given the right advice, because a printed book without an ISBN number is not a published book.
No.
You can't get it on Amazon, you can't get it in the bookshops, you're not registered with the British Library. And they will have either paid a lot of money out to a printer, got boxes and boxes of this book in their garage, and they can't get it out to a readership because there's no ISBN number, or it's more difficult for them.
So, obviously I know what an ISBN number is, but maybe you could clarify for others who are watching this video what an ISBN is and why it's so important.
Okay, the ISBN number is this, the barcode and the number that goes above that barcode on the back of any book.
Right.
And it contains quite a lot of information, that number. It tells you where it's been printed, it tells you who the publisher is, it gives it a unique number so that it's logged, and
Right.
that, just like having your baby registered, it's the same thing with your book.
So who's it logged with? Is it the British Library?
It is logged and registered with the British Library. The ISBN number, you get them from Nielsen's or from your publisher. And Nielsen's, they have the franchise in this country. Other countries, there are other ways of getting them. Sometimes it is apart from, I think, USA and UK, we have to pay for ours.
Yes.
But in other countries, they get them free. They can actually
Really?
apply for an ISBN number free from their government libraries.
Well, why is that then? That's a bit odd.
It is, but I hadn't realised that it's a big franchise, but it's just a way of making sure that every single book with one, can be monitored, if you like.
Yes, yeah. That's good
is
information.
It's an amazing setup. I've got a free ebook at the moment, and anyone watching this can have, they contact me, they can have a free ebook about how to start writing your manuscript.
Okay.
And in that, I've actually got a bit more about the importance of the ISBN number and shown what number means what.
Right, well, that's very useful. Might download that myself, actually.
Yes.
My other question I wanted to ask was, who is your target market? What sort of authors do you get? And who do you look for?
The author, I love authors who have an understanding of the process, because they understand that actually getting a book and getting it published is not an overnight thing. I've had some authors in their 80s, and sometimes it's a bit harder for them to understand how publishing has moved on in today's world, if you like.
Yes.
It's anyone, we take anyone who's publishing their memoirs, poetry, children's books, non-fiction and Christian faith books. That's our area of the genre.
Okay.
But I'm particularly interested in those who've got businesses, because I think a book is the ultimate business card.
Yes.
And your book can help to scale your business in a way.
That's one of the reasons why I was kind of looking to get one done myself, really.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is quite incredible, actually, particularly if you're working or writing in your field of expertise. Then there is still quite a lot of credence about being an author. So you say, I've written a book, people go, oh, really? You must be really right. Fantastic. Yeah, of course I am. But seriously, you just put on some focus into that area of your life, that time, to produce a book. I think it's quite a big event.
Excellent. Going slightly off the script, how would you advise people to, just basic tips on how to write a book? When I did mine, I scheduled an hour a day. Would that be something you advocate for people, or how would you suggest they start off, just kind of drawing a sketch of what they wanted?
I think you need, first of all, to have the idea and be able to map out the idea of what you're going to write about, whether that's characters or whether that is your chapters, as in a non-fiction book. And then you really need to think, right, how, if I'm going to, you're looking at between 10 and 30,000 words for a reasonable sized book. So how are you going to do this? And what works for you? What time of the day suits you? Are you a morning person, in which case get up an hour earlier and write then? Are you an evening person? You can do it last thing at night. So you know yourself what works for you. And then what are your carrots? What makes you think, yeah, I can do 10, 15 minutes now? Or so you stop procrastination before it even starts.
Yes.
By making a contract with yourself. I've read different things. Some people say, 10 minutes every day. Others say, well, actually, no, that could be too much. You need to go with the flow a little bit more, because it becomes a chore.
Yeah.
So I think if you understand how you work yourself, and if you can forget everything you learned from school, and then go from it from a creative point of view.
What do you mean by that? Forgetting what you learned at school?
Well, apart from what you learned at junior school, where they might have encouraged some creative writing, invariably the school education system was about getting the editing right, getting the spelling right, getting the grammar right, which are all very well and good, but that stops creativity. Because if all you're thinking as you're writing is, oh, is that spelling right, then you're using a different part of the brain.
Right.
So you don't want to edit at all. You just want to get the message out, and that part comes later.
Yeah, I would go with that actually.
Yeah. And the memory of school can be, all you can remember is the criticism and, you know, the red lines and getting the, you know, D minus or worse, you know, and we so quickly get into the negative rather than the positive of actually what you've got to say is really engaging and important, and people want to read it.
Yeah, definitely. And I would also say, from my personal experience, having written a book and also a short film script and also a feature film script, is don't be scared of the blank page. Write. If you've got nothing to write, if you've got nothing on the page, you've got nothing to edit. Just write, and don't worry if it's rubbish. Then you can go back and edit it. That would be my input on that as well. Okay.
Yeah. And I think
sorry.
People can get very overwhelmed because when we have our favourite authors or our favourite books, you only see the finished product. So this is one I just treated myself to recently. I thought it was quite engaging, and it is. They've got lots of quotes right at the start about books. So Ernest Hemingway said, "It's none of their business that you have to learn to write. Let them think you were born that way." What do you think? It's just brilliant.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
You pick a book up and it's a finished, perfect, in inverted commas, piece of work.
Yeah.
You've never see the author's first draft.
Yeah, exactly.
You never see the pain they've gone through, or the, you know, the angst they've gone through on this isn't working and why isn't it flowing and what do I need? Oh, I need to research such and such a little bit more. You don't see any of that. So you compare, when you start out, you're comparing yourself against something that is actually gone through a lot more processes than you have, which isn't fair. You can't compare yourself to something that's finished.
It's like comparing a goldfish to a whale, really, isn't it?
Yeah, very much. And you know, you've got to be that goldfish first to grow into a bigger fish or whale.
Yeah, depending on what you're writing. Excellent. Well, so can you give us a case study of someone you've helped, or a book that you've helped publish?
Right, yeah. One of the gentlemen I'm talking with at the moment, in fact, his book is, I've got my first draft here.
Oh, excellent.
It's a proof copy. And there's nothing like getting the hard copy proof copy, because that's when you suddenly pick up the mistakes that have slipped through. He's in his 80s, and it contains 45 pictures from the 1950s to 57, when he travelled 28,000 miles in 2 years.
Wow. And
he said, he couldn't really remember much in his memory from the last few years, but 1955 to 57, he's still there. And it was great working with him, because he would be talking about what it was like in the National Service, and he would be talking as an 18-year-old.
Wow.
And then he would get into the 80-year-old voice and go, oh, well, I can't quite remember that memory, and it's this and it's that. And we said, right, we need to separate the voices so that we hear that young man and see the growth to where you are today. And that has been great working with him.
That's fascinating, actually, because I don't know whether you know, some of the people that are watching this may know that I've done a lot of research about my uncle's World War II RAF career. Oh, right. So it's quite interesting to sort of see another aspect of it, because I don't know so much about the National Service period.
Yeah, and it's what brings it into someone thinking, why should I write about this in the first place? And Brian's grandson had said to him, well, what's all this about National Service, Granddad? Yeah. And it was like, this is a bit of forgotten history. It was so personal to him. And what comes out so strongly is the bond between the men. The genuine friendships that they had when they were going through very difficult times and preparing for war, or not war, because it was the start of peacetime.
But it could have been, because we had the bomb and everything, didn't we?
Yeah, they were still getting ready for the what if situations.
Yes, yeah.
And he saw parts of the world that he never expected to. So, and he gives this delightful story, and I can just see it on film or on camera, a bit like Call the Midwife, call out the national service. And he had gone to the shower room, and he had to go from the shower to his block. And he only had a little towel around him as he walked back. And the wind came, and what's going to
be. Yeah. A bit of a Marilyn Monroe moment.
Very much. And he's like so embarrassed. He's thinking, well, no one's here. And he starts to sort of run. And he notices that by the wire, there's some Chinese girls just wiggling their heads off as they could see him. So that one really went down in local history.
I can imagine. Imagine what a little newspaper report was about that. Naked man runs across army field.
Yes,
or
right.
something like that, yeah. Yeah, so...
And another author, again in her 80s, wrote her first book. And we went through the author mentoring program with her. And she had stitched pictures throughout her life. These beautiful, beautiful pictures. And each picture kind of represented what was happening in her life, going through a painful divorce, and where God was in her life at the time. So when I first spoke to her and she said that she'd got this collection of stitched pictures, I thought it was going to be a how-to book, how to do the stitch.
Yes.
And I'll say, well, we could do like a recipe, and you could say, right, you need these things, this is how you do it, this is my story behind it. Well, it went in a very different way, in a much nicer way, actually, where she was just explaining her life story, her memoir, and what that stitch picture meant and why she put it together as she did. Fascinating book.
That sounds amazing, actually, yeah. I suppose it was a good outlet for her to kind of tell her story, but to herself, first of all, by doing the stitch pictures, but then to other people by doing the book.
That's right. And of course, when she was doing those stitch pictures throughout her life, she had no idea she was going to put it into a book.
No.
So I'm always amazed. It's like Brian with his national service. His 45 pictures, he hadn't got a camera. He couldn't afford at that time the photographs. But somebody, just as he was coming home, said to him, oh, Brian, you might like these, and gave him a batch of photographs.
Oh, wow.
And then 60 years later, they're in the book. And you think it was meant to be. Those photographs, they had to go through him for it to happen.
Fabulous.
Was it just in a dusty drawer somewhere?
I love stories like that. I think they're great.
Yeah. And then the pop group Brotherhood of Man.
Yes.
Former members of that, Sue Glover, she's on my books, and we're just about to publish her book, which is my little book of Happy Angels.
Oh, fabulous.
So, children's book coming from that. So, and I just love it. I get very engrossed with my authors, very protective of them in a way, and protective of their books, and helping them to get it together so that they can have a bigger readership at the end.
Yeah, definitely. This sounds really good, actually. I'm really kind of enthused by what you shared with us today. And so if someone has like I did, I contacted you on Facebook, but say somebody else is thinking about doing a book, or they've got one that's in a manuscript form and they wanted to get some help publishing it, how would people contact you?
I'm very lucky because of having an unusual name. If you put in Ladey Adey, and that's got an E in it, so it's Ladey Adey.
I must admit, that did confuse me.
My name will pop up. So email lady@ladeyadey.com, Facebook's Ladey Adey, Twitter's the same, LinkedIn's the same, Instagram, podcast is the Ladey Adey Show. The podcast actually gives you a lot more insight in books. And I think there is even a podcast on the ISBN number that we spoke about earlier.
Okay.
And the website, which is ladeyadey.com. So if you know my name, you can find me.
So, right, last question, really. Is there a fun fact about you that you would like you could tell us about, basically, about your life or something, a hobby that you do that's a bit unusual or anything like that.
I've recently become a grandma, which isn't that unusual. It's an absolute delight, and we're thrilled being on grandparent duty. And I'm called Mama, and my husband's called Gigi, so we're not grandma and granddad. We're actually got different names. But when I'm not publishing or writing my own books, then you'll find me wall building.
Wall building. What does that mean? Tell us a bit more about that.
Bricklaying, dry stone wall. So I've built in our garden a 50-metre wall, six foot high, double bricked, a secret garden, and now we're just terracing and doing dry stone walling as part of that terracing.
That's amazing. Where did you learn to do that?
Pardon?
Where did you learn to do that?
Well, for the bricklaying, I went on a week's course and got my MVQ2 in bricklaying. But the dry stone, I just looked around, looked on a few YouTube videos and taught myself how to do it. But all the stone that we've got has come from our own garden.
Oh, okay.
Our garden down a foot and you just hit a quarry.
Fabulous.
So we dug a piece of we made a hobbit hole and got all this stone, so I had to use it anyway.
Oh, definitely. A bit like myself, I'm a bit of a DIY person as well. I've tiled my own bathroom and all that sort of stuff, so cool. It's always good to have an extra skill, I think, rather than just keeping to, very narrow confines.
Yes, and something like that. I do mosaics too. And it just means you can just focus in for that time, just on something else.
Yes.
It gets your mind straight, I think, particularly if it's something that's quite creative and physical.
Yes.
So writing is very much brain power, and sometimes you need something to offset it to be in balance.
Definitely. I did pottery at one point, and that was quite physical because obviously you throw the clay on the wheel and you do all the, to compress it and spin it around and everything. So that was quite good. But anyway. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us today? Any other tips or?
It's just, if you have an idea and certainly think you can write a book, just start and see where it takes you. Yeah. I found it life-changing, and I hope other people do too.
Fabulous. I would agree with that, definitely. Well, thank you very much, Ladey, for joining us today, and hopefully people have found that inspiring and contact you for more information.
Yeah, and don't forget the free ebook.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I will try and include that on the information when I reprocess this and upload it.
Okay.
Brilliant. Thanks very much.
Thank you.